Hi, everybody. I want to show you a map. I better make sure there's no email address on there. Yeah, all cool. Good trivia. Tell me what is being noted in the color shading of this map. Is this Greenland? Greenland is filled with ice and Iceland is filled with green, right? Greenland is one of them. But even if I take away Greenland, just because geographically it presents some imbalance. Good trivia. And the United States, if this map were to show you the United States, would not be designated the same as the others. So what do these European countries all have in common? I was blown away by this. Maybe you already know this, but I did not know this. In those countries that are color shaded, they treat those who've had COVID the same as those who've been vaxxed for mandate purposes. I'll be interested to go back later and read your comments and see whether any of you nailed it. I was drawn to this because I had a reporter from the Wall Street Journal on POTUS earlier in the week, and she was discussing with me the latest science about, and this is a subject that comes up on the program routinely, and I've just never had a clear answer to the question. Frankly, I don't have a clear answer to the question now. But the issue is whether those who've had COVID have the same level of protection as those who, like me, perhaps like you, thank God, haven't had COVID, but have gone out and gotten vaccinated, or in my case, have been vaccinated and boosted. So I'm having this conversation with my guest, and in the conversation, she works into the fact that in England and in Germany, I think she said, and cited one or two other countries, maybe Israel, if you've had COVID for mandate purposes, you're treated the same as those who've been vaccinated. So I was really, and we talked about this briefly on radio, but I was really taken aback by that. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe all of you already knew that that's the situation in these countries. And it begs the question, what do they know that we don't? Or what do we know that they don't? Because that's not the way it is in the United States. And when I've questioned scientists about this, what I've often heard is that the response to having had COVID is so individualized that you just can't put in place some type of a benchmark that says, well, for the 6 months after you've had COVID, you've got sufficient antibodies that we know you're protected. And yet that is what they do in these countries. Why am I motivated to talk about it today? I'm motivated to talk about it today because Angela Merkel, after 16 years as being the German chancellor, is now leaving or has just left. And in her final presser, she announces this new German lockdown where she said, for the unvaccinated, they will be banned from accessing all but the most essential businesses, such as supermarkets and pharmacies. Under the tightened rules, unvaccinated people can only meet 2 people from another household, and bars and nightclubs must shut down in areas with a high incidence rate. But there's an exception. The exception is that those who've had COVID are treated in the same respect as those who've been vaccinated. In other words, in Germany, people who've had COVID are not subject to the lockdown. They're treated in similar fashion to those who've been vaxxed. And I want to know, do they have the right answer or do we have the right answer? And so that's a subject that I'm going to get into on CNN today with a great guest, as a matter of fact. Austria, Belgium, France, Germany, Greece, Ireland, Israel, the Netherlands, Spain, Switzerland, Turkey, Ukraine, United Kingdom, and the Vatican are all in common in this regard. So what is the latest science? Here's the summary that I have drawn from the Wall Street Journal and drawn as well from other periodicals. According to an October study by the UK's Office of National Statistics, 2 doses of either Pfizer or AstraZeneca, remember that's what they use in the UK, provided a similar level of protection to prior natural infection when the Delta variant was dominant. Our own CDC concurs. A study dated October 29 says available evidence shows that fully vaccinated individuals and those previously infected with SARS-CoV-2 each have low risk of subsequent infection for at least 6 months. On the other hand, here comes Omicron. Researchers at the South African Center for Epidemiological Modeling and Analysis at Stellenbosch University said this: population-level evidence suggests that the Omicron variant is associated with substantial ability to evade immunity from prior infection. So maybe when it comes to Omicron, it gets to the people who've been previously exposed to COVID in a way that a vaccine patient doesn't. A microbiologist that I'll quote on air today: Omicron has blown a big hole in the controversial argument that we should simply allow the infection to spread in an attempt to create immunity. Let me just see if we're going to make sure here that this is not a peer-reviewed publication. I need to make sure that I say that. Anyway, it raises this interesting question. Should prior COVID infection count when it comes to vaccine mandates? Should prior COVID infection count when it comes to vax mandates? It's a timely conversation to have because the Biden administration sort of pivoted yesterday, Thursday actually, and seemed to be stressing less vaccination, although of course the president wants everybody to get vaccinated and boosted, but they started talking more about testing. And I think that's in recognition of the fact that they know in some parts of the country and among some demographics, they're just not going to reach people. No amount of browbeating from President Biden or me or others is going to cause people who are not yet vaxxed to go get vaxxed. So what do we do now? And I think a big question along the way is, what do we do for those, if anything, who've already had COVID? Should we go the way of Europe? Pretty stunning, isn't it? Did you know this? Did you know that in all these countries, they treat people who've had COVID the same as those who have gotten vaxxed? I didn't know it. I think I knew that 1 or 2 did, but I didn't know that it was that widespread. So, yeah, many of you are now going to ask me lots of questions that I'm not equipped to answer. I'm simply framing. I'm not advocating for it. I'm framing the issue. I'm bringing this to everyone's awareness level, and then I'm asking an expert more detailed questions about it. And then something else that's related to COVID that I want to discuss on air today. I have a state representative from Kansas who is one of those supportive of the move to guarantee unemployment benefits. Kansas is one of 4 states that has done this, to guarantee unemployment benefits for those who lose their job because they've not adhered to a vaccine mandate. Really interesting question. And again, something that I've already gotten into on radio this week. Unemployment compensation benefits exist to get you through a rough patch. You've lost your job through no fault of your own. Through no fault of your own, you've lost your job. And in between jobs for 26 weeks, you're going to get, 30 to 50% of your salary. In the abstract, that's what it's all about. Think about somebody who's at a big factory. The factory loses a contract. They have to lay people off. You're working there at an assembly line. It's fault of yours, but you're at a gig. You collect unemployment benefits. But if you're fired for willful misconduct, you sexually harass, you steal, you're a problem employee and you're fired for your bad conduct, you don't collect unemployment compensation. So into which of those 2 extremes should fall the person who doesn't get a vaccine, gets fired, and now wants to collect unemployment. And you've got several red states that are locking in those benefits for those who don't adhere to a vaccine mandate, which I think is in contravention of those same legislators, politicians, mostly conservative, who have previously said, this is an analogy because I know that this is now ended, but these are the same people who said enhanced unemployment benefits are causing people not to go back to work. Like, stop paying unemployment insurance, enhanced benefits, because you're keeping people you're giving them an incentive not to work. And by the way, I happen to believe that. But now those folks, and this I don't agree with, are saying, let's pay the people who won't go along with the vax mandate. I think just to be antagonistic toward the Biden administration and also to curry favor with the base. So, yeah, interesting, right? Thank you for all these comments. You know that it's too much for me to digest just before I go on air, and as they scroll by so quickly. I see many of your kind comments on a subject that I'm just not going to get into. If you this is going to be an interesting week for me this coming week. It's going to be a long week because I intend to be on radio every day, and also to be I intend to be on radio every day, and I intend to also be on television at 9 p.m. And I guess now I am addressing it. The only thing I would say is that I view what I'm scheduled to do this week on CNN as simply a continuation of what I've already been doing. And that is when Chris is not there, I am often asked to guest host his program. He will not be there this week. I hope he'll be back soon. Did you hear that part? But this week I've been asked, and I'm available, or I'm going to make myself available to host that program as well. So it'll be an active week heading into the holidays. We're in the holidays already. Busy time. Busy time. No, Joe, nothing starts. Joe, nothing starts. Honestly, no BS. Nothing starts at all. This is what I do. I did it the night before Thanksgiving. I was already scheduled a couple of nights in between Christmas and New Year's. I've been, a sixth man on the court, if you will, in this way many times over. So that's it. That is it. All right. I better shut this down. I got to get to work. I thank you all so much. I'll read the comments later, I promise, and wish you all a good day. Make sure you're getting your T-shirts because we're going to cut that off soon, which is really a fun subject because every time I say it, it causes a run on T-shirts, which is not my intention. But if you want one, you better hurry and get them because come Christmas, I'm going to stop, promoting them. All right. Have a good day. Enough said. Okay? Come on. Enough said. See ya. Have a good day.